Then we're moving on. The first part of the Old Testament deals with has its background in Israel's story before they got into the land, and then their story when they're in the land. In the centre of the Old Testament are those poetic books such as Job and Psalms. The latter part of the Old Testament is the prophets, and we come now to the first of the prophetic books, Isaiah, a book that is arguably the most complicated of them in terms of what it covers and in terms of the way in which it unfolds. I find that when students start reading the book of Isaiah, it kind of confuses them because they think it'll be a book that's organised like one of your papers. Oh, ha, ha, ha. Well, a lot of your papers anyway, that have a beginning and a middle and an end and some points in the middle and so on. And I hope your sermons are like that too. Isaiah isn't quite like that. And the reason is that what you have in the book of Isaiah is the deposit, the result, the sermon notes from loads and loads of sermons or prophecies that were delivered to Israel. And so the average prophecy is 8 or 10 or 20 verses. That's kind of like a complete sermon. So you get one of those, then you get another one, then you get another one. So don't have too high expectations, particularly in the first part of the book of Isaiah, about a logical sequence about the book, because when the sermon notes of Isaiah were collected together, it wasn't quite like that anybody tried to arrange them. The other complication about the book is that the book as a whole relates to at least 3 big historical periods. And in reading this book, you need to have in mind the outline of the story of Israel that we attempted to acquire at the beginning of the quarter. Isaiah ben Amos, Isaiah himself, lived in the 8th century, when it's the time when the big Middle Eastern empires are first of all bringing pressure upon northern Israel, Ephraim, and upon Judah. And it's perhaps no coincidence that that's the period in which the prophets who have books named after them start functioning in Israel. It's that political context. So Isaiah himself lives in the 8th century. When you get to chapters 40 to 55 of Isaiah, though, they presuppose a situation much later. They presuppose not that one day God is going to take Judah into exile, but that not only has God taken Judah into exile, but the exile is nearly over, and the time is coming when God is going to take Judah home to the promised land. So the background of these prophecies is 2 centuries later than Isaiah. And when you come to read the last 11 chapters of the book, in chapters 56 to 66, then you will find it presupposing a situation that's more that of people who are back in the land after people have been free to return from exile. Questions about rebuilding the temple are important here, as they are in the books of Haggai and Zechariah. So the book of Isaiah itself spans almost the entire period that all the prophets span. It's a complicated book and it's a rich book, but it's not just an anthology of miscellaneous prophecies. It's a book that holds together as all the ministry that's exercised in Israel in the name of the God who is the Holy One of Israel. In these prophetic books, of course, and not least in Isaiah, we get passages that are looking forward to the coming of a Messiah, though they don't use the word Messiah in that connection, and they are bringing a message of hope again to the people who live in the prophet's day. They are not merely giving you an advanced preview of something to happen centuries' time. They are God ministering to people in their context, in the way, praise God, that God ministers also to us in our context.